Hello everyone, this is Gayle, and I've been working on doing little miniature things lately, and of course I've moved into my house, moved in September, and there is nothing in the yard. There's no bushes, no shrubs, no trees. It's just a big empty lot surrounded by woods. Which is okay, because we wanted it empty, but so I went out the other day and I bought a couple of lilacs. I love lilac bushes. And since I was trying to do my miniature frangipani or plumeria a while back, I decided I would try to do little lilac blossoms. Well, the name just left me for a minute. Now what I did here is I mixed equal amounts of periwinkle and pearl and came up with this really pretty pearlized purple. And then I rolled a little snake and started cutting little pieces. And the size of your pieces depends on how big you want your petals. Each one of these little pieces is going to be one blossom. So there's going to be either 4 petals or a bud. And let me show you what I'm talking about. I printed this off earlier because I wanted to look at the lilac blossom, which is 4 petals, and it has a little yellow center. And then it's on a stalk like this, bunch of little ones, and there's buds, and then there's fully opened flowers. And then this is just some plumeria earrings that were made, which I think are really pretty. But what I thought I would do is show you how I would make them. I'm sure there are many other ways to make these, but let me just stick with this. I've made a couple just because I wanted to make sure I could do this. And I'm going to take one of these little sections and I'm just going to ball it up into a ball, and then I'm going to roll it with my finger on one side to make a teardrop. Now I'm going to take my craft knife because it seems to be sharper than my dull blade, and I'm going to cut down the middle there, not all the way through, and then down. Try to keep it fairly even. And then you can pull back. Whoops, I almost broke it. Pull back these little sections. Now if you're going to make a bud, you can pull it back up like that and leave it just like that, and that can be a bud. And in the case of a bud, I'm going to take an eye pin, just a plain eye pin, and stick it down through the center and just pull it all the way down. And there is my little bud. You can stick it in a piece of scrap clay like I did here. Just stick it there. But that's the bud. To make a flower, and you can do this either in your hand or on the floor, do the same thing. Make a little teardrop. My hands are just so dry from washing them. And again, cut this into 4s. I'm going to separate it a little bit this time, just because the last time it seemed to stick to itself. Now here you can do two things. You can use the same flat-headed head pin, which I'll do on this one. And push it through. Make sure you pull it all the way down. And make sure you push around it so it stays. Then you can separate, and I'm going to use my craft knife. That one separated okay. And separate this one. Make my four petals. And then I'm going to take my ball tool. I'm going to put my finger under the petal and just press. To make a little rounded petal. Whoops, I broke that one. Let me see if I can repair it. I could say I did that on purpose so I could show you not to press too hard. But I will be honest, I messed up. And just thin out the end of the petal. Now with this one, because it has the flat head pin in there, I would take a little tiny, that might be too tiny, little tiny piece of yellow. And I'm going to just use my craft knife to pick it up. Place it in there to cover up your head pin. And then you can take a ball tool. Let's see, where's my littlest? I think the blue. Maybe not. Pink? Pink. And then just kind of dab it with your ball tool to give it some texture. Make sure it's tight around the head pin. And you can open it up as much as you want. And I'm just flattening it out a little bit more with my fingers. And then cupping it again. And you'll stick it on that same piece of scrap clay. So let me do that again, and this time I'll come in a little bit closer so that hopefully you can see better. I'm going to roll this into a ball. Roll it into a teardrop. Cut it into fourths. You can spread it out a little bit with your craft knife just so you can get down in here into the center. Now this time, instead of putting a little piece of yellow, I'm going to take a ball head pin. See, it's got a little ball on it. In case you want to make these a little dressier than having just the clay, you can take that and stick it and pull it all the way down. Press around the bottom to make sure that it's adhered to the head pin. Then do the same thing. Open it up. That's not the one I want. Where's my big one? Here it is. And just press to make it into a petal. This one's not quite as big a petal, so I won't press that quite as hard. And then another one. And there's a lilac blossom with a silver center. Now I'm going to need a lot of these to make anything out of it, but I wanted you to see how I made them. So I'm going to stop the camera and I'm going to make several more and then I'll be back. Okay, I have a bunch of flowers made and buds, and I'm going to put those in the oven. But I also need to have some leaves. So I took some green and gold and put them together because this was pearlized. I wanted the leaves to be pearlized. You might have leaf cutters, which are great to use, but I'm just going to use a teardrop cutter. If you have a teardrop, that will work. But I'm going to just cut a bunch of leaves. Now this clay is cut out on the number 6 on my pasta machine, which is not the thinnest, but it's pretty thin. And the reason I did that is because I need 2 layers. I don't need a lot of leaves. But what I'm going to do, after I separate them, and that is, must not have pressed very hard. Matter of fact, I know I didn't because I thought it was so thin. I'll leave it there in case I need some more. I'm going to take one of these same head pins. Well, first I'm going to take, you can take a needle tool, you can take your little stylus, but I'm going to make some veins. If you want to put some texture on it, you can do that. But I'm just drawing. And I'm not sure yet what I'm going to make, so I don't really know how many leaves to make. There are not, on the bush itself, the lilac has lots of leaves, but around the flower, it only has a few mixed in there. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take one that I didn't texture. I'm going to put my head pin down in there and push it down. Then I'm going to take one of these that I put veins in, and I'm going to lay it on top. My fingers are just too klutzy for some of these small little things. And when I made my, you know how when you start making something, the more you do, the better you get. Well, I switched over for these flowers. I switched over to the larger ball tool, the Sculpey tool, and I like that a lot better. So I'm just going to make sure that these meet. And there is texture to the leaves, but I'm only going to texture the one side. You know what I could do? Let me get my little piece of thread out. When I put these together, let me see, where was this? And put my veins back in, and when I do that, it should be texturizing on the back. A little bit. That's all I need. So I'm just going to lay this on here. This is the plain one. Now if you have just plain wire, you don't have to use head pins, but the little flat piece on your head pin does help it stay in your clay. And let's see, how am I going to do this and not mess it up? Just want to make sure these two pieces of clay stick together. And not my texture. And I'm going to stick that in here with the same flowers because I'm going to bake this whole thing. Let me stick this one in here, so that's 2 leaves. If you don't want to put texture in your leaves or veins, you don't have to. It's entirely up to you. It's a personal preference. That's 3. This one's bent and it rolled a little bit. The only thing about getting these thin gauge head pins is they have a tendency to never be straight. And I put the wrong end in this one. I didn't even put the head pin side. I put the flat, the straight side. So let me see if I can open this back up. And stick that in there. There, much better. And then one more. See, look at this one. I mean, I've got them almost in U shapes, but look this one, how bent it is. So I'll have to make sure I lay it so that it will not flip. There we go. So now I've got my leaves and my flowers all made. I'm going to bake these. And because they're kind of thin and I need them to be really strong, I'm still going to bake them for an hour. Just make sure they're the way you want them before you put them in the oven. And I think they're fine. So I will be back after these are baked. Okay, all of my little blossoms are out of the oven. So they're easy to handle now, easy to work with. And I took time to cut some of these. I cut about down to about 1/4 of an inch. This is a little bit more because I'm going to use this for something else. But these I cut back to about 1/4 of an inch, and then I curled the end. And I curled the end because I found this ring and I filled it with the same green as the leaves. And I'm going to take these flowers and poke them down into the green. Now these are going to be the shorter ones. And I'm just going to stick them down in there, and that little hook on the end will keep them from coming out of the clay. And I need to pull this is one that I put the round pin in, or it's a flat pin. But when I try to push it in, if you have tweezers, that would probably work better than these pliers. But I'm pushing it in so that the little hook goes in the clay. Now this one you can see the pin, so I may have to put a little piece of yellow clay in there to cover it up. But I'm just going to do the same thing. Let me see, I've got some tweezers. Here they are. Wow, I actually have something real handy and I know where it is. This is a little thing of tweezers I bought on Amazon. They're precision tweezers. They're all different kinds of things. But the ones that I have hooks on, I'm just going to stick this into the clay. And see, with these, I can take the tweezer and push them down in there. And then close the clay around it. But I'm going to do this with the ones that I do have the little hooks on. See, that's a short one, so I need tweezers for this one. And just continue doing this until you fill it in. And these are going to be your background flowers. I've got these that I haven't bent yet are going to be the other flowers. But I'm just going to kind of cover the base with flowers and buds. Here's a bud that's got a really short wire on it. But I really like these tweezers because I can take them and push them down into the clay. Whoops. And they've got such a precision tip on it. It's real easy to work with. I just need to get the right angle. But I'm going to continue putting these in. Oh, I've done all of those. All right, I need to add some more. These I cut a little longer because I planned on doing something else with it. So let me trim a couple more to about 1/4 of an inch. hear my dog misbehaving and I'm not sure what he's doing. I'm scared to go into the living room to find out. And it might be time for me to start filling in different things anyway. So let me take some leaves and stick them in here, because I do want to stick some leaves in here. I'll turn this around so it sticks out that way. Should have cut off another one because I like to do things in threes. Something about the odd numbers of things really makes a big difference in eye appeal. So I'll put in 3 leaves. There. You see I have 3 leaves in there. And I'm going to continue to fill these in. I didn't make a loop on this one. I kind of got it halfway done and decided to change it to a zigzag, but I think now I'm going to go back to a loop. See, that's a longer one. That's a longer one. This one's a little bit longer. You want to put them at different heights. So let me go on and do these longer ones, because those are going to go in last, and those you'll just stick in the middle or on top. Okay, so let me stick this in. While I'm thinking about it, let me stick this yellow. Actually, there's a piece of yellow. It looks like maybe it came off. You'll push this yellow in here to cover that pin head. And I'm just going to use a piece of my wire to add some texture. That's way too much, but you get the idea. And let me just stick that in. After a while, you get to where you can just stick them in with your fingers. I think this one will be one of the taller ones. And this one will be one of the taller ones, because they're going to kind of go on top. And see, that looks like a nice little ring. Actually, this leaf needs to come up a little bit. So I'll probably put another one in here. But you get the idea. Whoops, I just knocked one out. You do need to be careful while it's still in the raw state. So let me cut another one. And you can have as many as you want. If you want to make a big mound, just keep making these little cuts a little bit longer. And then your flowers can go in at a different angle. Still need a few more. But this is the fun part. But you can do the same thing. I'll show you some other things I have that I was trying to decide what to use. Whoops. Well, that one flew across the room somewhere. Believe it or not, I found it. Be sure to hold on to your pieces when you're working with them so they don't fly across the room like mine just did. Again, I'm trying to work too fast. I'm going to go ahead and just cut all of these. Or at least 3. So let me put one in here underneath this leaf. And I'll put one on this side of this leaf. And that's really all I need. I may put one bud down in here. But there you go. There is a pretty spring ring. Of course, it's not baked. What I would do is put this in the oven. Again, I would take a piece of scrap clay. I might take the rest of this green. And just stick this in that, like that, and bake it that way, so that this doesn't lay down. And then I would probably finish it with a little bit of something to shine it, whether it be Sculpey glaze or Varathane. I'll probably use Varathane because that's what I like to use. But this is your spring lilac ring. So I hope you like this. I've got, I was going to show you the other things. This is a purse holder that folds up and goes in your purse, and it hooks under a table so that you can hang your purse here on this hook. And it's got a rubber piece on the back so it won't slip, and then on the top there's a little recessed area here that has the name on it, Fuse Works. This is probably from the fused glass section at Hobby Lobby. But it's got stuff on it so your clay would stick to that. This is a pill box. I would pull this out and cover the top with lilacs, just like I did here. Take some clay and put it on there, and then just stick the lilacs down in them. But I just love lilacs, and I hope mine smell as good as the ones that I've had in my past. I planted 2 lilac bushes outside, and I can't wait for them to grow enough to bloom. Right now they're about 8 inches tall, but I'm sure they'll grow. So I hope you like this. Come back again soon for another polymer clay video. Bye-bye.